हरिः ओम् नमः सर्वेभ्यः। अष्टाध्यायी परिचयः इत्यस्य अद्य 15 पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे सूत्राणां मुख्यप्रभेदानाम् अध्ययनं कुर्मः। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। अस्माकं वर्गस्य द्वे प्रयोजने अष्टाध्याय्याः आहत्य 400 सूत्राणां व्याख्यासहितम् उदाहरणसहितं च अध्ययनं, तथा च अष्टाध्याय्याः प्रथमाध्यायस्य प्रथमपादस्य कण्ठस्थीकरणम्। विषयस्य प्रारम्भात् पूर्वं किञ्चित् संशय निराकरणं करोमि. So I saw a few questions on the group which were not sufficiently addressed. So let me take them up over here. At the same time, if you have any related questions, I can take them up while we are discussing these before we actually jump on to today's topic. So the first question was about Vartikas. So in some of the commentaries, for example, in Mahabhashya, there are some numbers given to the Vartikas. Or the question was, is the sequence of the Vartikas valid? How are the meanings of the Vartikas to be interpreted, and so on. So let's take this example. Let me take say a random sutram, say Angasya, and if you go to Mahabhashyam, you can see there are these some Vartikas written in brackets, and there are some numbers over here 6505, 6506, and so on. So what these numbers are? These numbers are basically the numbers of the Vartika that the Bhashyakara has given in some way. They are not necessarily serial. Most of them are serial, but they are not necessarily serial. And more importantly, if you keep on collecting them, you will not get all of them together. So some numbers are there, some numbers are not there, and so on. So these numbers have no meaning, no value. They have no relation or no association with the sutra number. In fact, I have never used, or I don't even know a number of any particular Vartika. More interestingly, this stuff that is written in the brackets over here in Mahabhashyam or any other commentary. So this is, for example, the stuff written in the brackets. These are actually the comments of the editor. So the book from which this particular commentary is taken, the editor has done some kind of annotations for the readers to understand what's going on. So for example, this Lingyetve Prayojanam, the editor calls it as the Prayojana Vartikam, editor or the publisher. So this again another Prayojana Vartikam, Adhikara Prayojana Vartikam, that's the name given by the publisher. It is not the name that you will find in the actual Mahabhashya. So again, entities that are written in the brackets have no meaning, no value. They are used as guides for the students to understand what's going on, but they don't have any direct significance. So that's about Vartikanang Kramankaha. Vartikani Anyeshu Vyakyaneshu api vidyante va? So typically, very rarely to be honest, in Kashika or Kaumudi, some kind of statements are given as Vakyam and Vaktavyam. Whether you want to consider them as Vartikas or not is up to you. So technically, a Vartika must be defined in the Bhashya because we don't have a separate Vartika Grantha. So we only know what comes through the Bhashya. But once in a while, you will find that a certain important rule, which is not quoted in the Bhashya, is being referenced into Kashika or Kaumudi as something Vaktavyam and so on. So you might want to treat them as Vartika or no, it doesn't really matter. For all practical purposes, any Siddhanta that is not there in the Sutra Patha and that has been accepted can be considered as Vartika. So that is about the Vartikani Anyeshu Vyakhyaneshu api Vidyante va. The next question is about Vartikanang Kramaha. In the same context, there was a question on the website, these blue things that are written, from where these Vartikas are taken, and are all these Vartikas only the accepted Vartikas by the Bhashyakara? So no, these are not necessarily the accepted Vartikas. Fundamentally, these are the Vartikas that are quoted as Vartikas by the Bhashyakara. So sometimes what happens is when the Bhashyakara wants to reject something, he will give a Vartika. So for example, here, Akats, or there was something else, I think, Apuriti Vaktavyam, or one of them, I think there was a message on the group. So he will give a Vartika, and then he will give a counter statement on his own to reject that particular Vartika. So that counter statement will also end in Vaktavyam or Vakyam and so on, but that is not to be taken as a Vartika. So Vartika is basically a statement that, according to Bhashyakara, came from Katyayana or others. And what are these statements? Some books have listed them separately, so we just digitized them on the website. So whatever you see in the blue color are technically Vartikas. Associated with them may be some other statements specifically said by Bhashyakara, which will end in Vaktavyam and so on. They are not to be considered as Vartikas. So that's about things present on the website. In the same context, Vartikanam Kramaha. So Vartikas do not have a separate ordering like the Sutra Patha. A Vartika has no significance beyond the Sutra. You cannot dislocate the Vartika from the Sutra and treat it as an independent entity. So Uttara Padatve cha Apadadi Vidhau has to be closely associated with Nalumatangasya, which means that whatever number 1163 is given to Nalumatangasya, same number, you can say 1163 Vartika 1 to Uttara Padatve, which also means that whenever you're looking at the sutras for Badhya Badhaka Bhava, I'm going to talk about that in one of the upcoming classes, or some of you might know the concepts of Asiddhatvam. So whenever you're looking at the sutras from the point of view of Asiddhatvam, a Vartika's number or the Vartika's placement is identical to the sutra placement. Now, what happens is that, ironically, in Siddhanta Kaumudi, when I said that Siddhanta Kaumudi has thoroughly reordered the sutras purely from the point of view of Prakriya, what Siddhanta Kaumadikara has done is that if a sutra is required in a different Prakriya, and if a Vartika of that sutra is required in altogether different Prakriya, then Siddhanta Kaumadikara just splits them apart, and he will define or he will explain the sutra at some one place, and he will explain that Vartika at an altogether different place, maybe 500 sutras later. So sometimes what will happen, I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. Nalumatangasya sutra will be explained at one place, and Uttara Padatve cha Padadi Vidho will be explained tagged to a different sutram at an altogether different place. So the presence of Vartika in the Sutra, in the Siddhanta Kaumudi, is not to be taken as Pramana. I think I might have remembered one of the examples. So Dhruvamapaye Padanam. So there is this Jugupsa Virama Pramadanam Upasankhyanam. So that's the Vartika which is present in this particular sutram, I think. So this Vartika is present in this particular sutram, Jugupsa Virama Pramadarthanam Upasankhyanam. But you don't see this sutra, this Vartika, Jugupsa Virama Pramadarthanam Upasankhyanam in Siddhanta Kaumudi at all. So in Dhruvamapaya Padanam of Siddhanta Kaumudi, there is no mention of this Vartika. And it is mentioned in next sutra, Apadane Panchami. Now, if you look at this as a standalone commentary, you might be misguided by saying that Jugupsa Virama is the Vartika associated with Apadane Panchami. But no, Jugupsa Virama is Vartika associated with Dhruvamapaye Padanam. So that's where Kashika plays an important role. Kashika is teaching the sutras sequentially, so it will stay true to the placement of the Vartikas. So never believe the placement of Vartikas with respect to Siddhanta Kaumudi. Always believe the placement of Vartikas with respect to Kashika or with respect to Mahabhashya, or for the simplicity, it's there in the blue color on the website. So that's basically Vartikanam Kramaha, Vartikanam Arthavidhanam, Sarvada Sutranam Sandarbhena Eva Kriyate. Kani Vartikani Jalapute Santi, I have explained that only those statements which Bhashyakara asserts as Vartikas, whether he accepts them or doesn't accept them is an altogether different thing. Asserts as Vartikas are given in the website. Bhashya ... in the brackets iti kim vidyate. These are publisher notes. Moving on to the second question. There was a question that was asked by somebody, I think on the group or personally was sent to me. What is exactly the difference between Prachina Vyakaranam and Navya Vyakaranam? So in the previous class, we have studied this Grantha Parampara or the Vyakarana Parampara, scholars and so on. So we have the three Munis, the Munitrayam. Then we have Kashika, Bhartruhari. we have Kayyata and so on. Then in the 16th or 15th century, we have Bhattoji Dikshita. Then Bhattoji Dikshita's son or Bhattoji Dikshita's student, Varadaraja, and so on. All the way we come down to 17th or 18th century, Nagesha. So Nagesha Bhatta, who wrote all those complex books like Paribhashendu Shekhara, Lagushabdendu Shekhara, and so on, he completely gave a new direction of thinking towards the Vyakarana Shastra. So if you ask who is the next greatest Vyakarana after Bhashyakara, Bhashyakara is 200 BC, and who will occupy the immediate next position? It is Nagesha Bhatta of 18th or 17th century. And therefore, whatever Siddhantas Nagesha has written are considered Navya Vyakaranam. Navya and Prachina doesn't mean sutras change, theorems don't change, rules don't change, sadhu asadhutva doesn't change, but complex concepts have been explained in different way. Some kind of interpretation of the sutras it differs. So Nagesha and onwards is called Navya Vyakarana. Everything before Nagesha, which includes Bhattoji Dikshita or Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi or even Kashika and Vakyapadiyam and of course the Munitrayam, everything is called Prachina Vyakaranam. So for example, if you specifically, and when we say Prachina Vyakaranam, there also you have gradations. So for example, when Siddhanta Kaumudi, which came before Nagesha, Siddhanta Kaumadikara will refer Prachina Vyakaranam as the one before that. But in general, the word Prachina Vyakaranam is reserved to everything before Nagesha. Navya is Nagesha onwards. So that's the difference between Prachina Vyakarana and Navya Vyakarana. Then there was another question about the prakaranas, the groups of Ashtadhyayi, the groups of concepts in Ashtadhyayi. This also came up in one of the questions in the last class. So actually there is a slide in class number 11. This slide was not taught in the class. I created the slide after the class. I was listening to the recording and I was thinking something is amiss, and then I created this slide. So let's understand this slide. Go back and look at that slide in the slide deck as well. So basically, the structure of Ashtadhyayi is built around this fundamental theorem of Sanskrit grammar, which has always been telling Prakriti plus Pratyaya is equal to Padam, or Prakriti plus Pratyaya is the Pratyayanta Shabdaha. So out of the 8 Adhyayas of Ashtadhyayi, the first 2 Adhyayas are specifically for the Prakriti. So Prakriti ityukte kim pratipadikam asti, dhatuh asti, samasa will generate a pratipadikam, so that's also Prakriti. So pratipadikasya swarupam, dhatoho swarupam, samasa nirnayam, dhatu pada nirnayaha, vibhakti vidhanam, because vibhaktis are specifically added on the Prakritis. So vibhakti vidhanam, samnyas of the Vyakarana Shastra, like Vruddhi, Guna, and so on, the technical terms that you want to use across the entire Ashtadhyayi. So all that is present in the first 2 chapters. So that's the first part of the equation. Then in the next 3 chapters, this is the entire section of Pratyayas. Starting from the first sutra of chapter 3 up to the last sutra of chapter 5, it's all Pratyayas. And remember, we learned that there are 7 types of Pratyayas. So we have Sanadi Pratyayaha, Vikarana Pratyayaha, Ping Pratyayaha, and Krut Pratyayaha. These 4 types of pratyayas are in the 3rd chapter alone. So Sanadi, Vikarana, Ting, and Krut. And the next 3 types of pratyayas are in the 4th and 5th chapter. Out of that, Sup Pratyaya and Tadhita Pratyaya are just in the first pada of 4. So Sup Pratyaya and Stri Pratyaya only 4.1. That also not full 4.1, only half of the 4.1. And Tadhita Pratyaya is the largest set of Pratyayas that occupy a total of 8 padas. So, or 7.5 padas to be technically correct. So 4.1 remaining half, entire 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4. That's entirely Tadhita Pratyayas. So that's the middle 3 adhyayas, 3, 4, 5. All types of pratyayas are provided. So that completes the left-hand side of our equation. And then the combination of Prakriti and Pratyaya, which includes all those 5 types of transformations, Adesha, Agama, Lopa, Dvitva. Pratyaya Vidhanam is already done, so 4 of the remaining. So Adesha, Agama, Lopa, Dvitva, then Idagama. Then what happens during that process? So Natva is also type of Adesha, Shatva is Adesha, Sandhi, Yanadesha, and so on. And the swaras, how is an Udatta swara being told? Anudatta swara is generated in the sense which swara will get the Udattatva property, Anudattatva property. Because once a pada is created, you want to have a specific swara associated with each of the ach letters in that pada. So all that information, which is basically stuff related to the final pada, is in 6, 7, and 8. So this way, even the structure of Ashtadhyayi revolves around this central concept of Prakriti plus Pratyayaha is equal to Padam. So that was about this Ashtadhyayaha Prakaranani. Another thing I wanted to discuss was the Ashtadhyayi Vyakhyananveshanam. So if you go to the website and on the right hand side, a little below in the section of Sadhanani, you have this Ashtadhyayi Vyakhyananveshanam. So Ashtadhyayi Vyakhyananveshanam, if you have not yet used, is a very powerful tool to search for any word across all commentaries of Ashtadhyayi. So for example, here is what I want to search for the word, say Anudatta. Anudatta. As soon as I search for the word Anudatta, I see in Vruddhiradait Sutram, in Mahabhashyam, there is Anudatta. In Halonantara Sanyoga, in Laghu Shabdendu Shekhara, there is Anudatta, and so on. So you get the search of this particular word across the entire Ashtadhyayi, all the commentaries. You can fine tune this. All the Vyakhyas will be selected by default. You can fine tune this and say, I only am studying Kashika. So let me just deselect everything and only see what is there in Kashika. So now here you have only stuff in the Kashika available over here. In this way, you can play around with these controls. Another thing that you want to focus a little bit is how you give this query. Because what happens is all the commentaries are going to have words in the Sandhi fashion. So all the words are going to be connected. So specifically for a word like Anudatta, it is very rare that an actual will be visible in the beginning. If there is a word called Udatta and Anudatta, they are going to get combined and you are going to get Udattanudatta, which is not going to match the verbatim search term called Anudatta. So try using your skills of searching and try searching different variations of a query. So instead of searching Anudatta, if you just search Nudatta, then immediately you can see that in the very first result, there is Udattanudatta, which is also a match, which was probably not a match earlier. Or similarly, somewhere over here, Chanudatta, Udattanudatta, and so on. So Ekananudatta. So these kind of additional matches. Similarly, maybe if you remove one of the thurs, you might get some additional matches where, for example, some transformations, not this word, in general I'm telling, some transformations have happened and so on. Similarly, for example, whether you are searching for Vak versus Vag, that might also differ because sometimes K becomes G, sometimes G comes back to K and so on. So use whatever knowledge you have learned so far in basic sandhis and transformations to make variations of the queries and search using Ashtadhyayi Vyakhyanani. So that was about Ashtadhyayi Vyakhyanam. The last question that I got was about the Unadi Pratyayas. So Unadi Pratyayas are specifically used for the Rudha words where a sensible Prakriti Pratyay Vibhaga or a sensible Vyutpatti cannot be told. So the question was, Unadi Pratyayaihi Siddhaha Shabdaha Ye Santi Tesham Vyutpattihi Kalpaniki Asti Va. Is that Vyutpatti imaginary? So on one hand, yes, it is kind of imaginary, but then I want to extend this further and say entire Vyakarana is imaginary to start with, because fundamentally is the language that you speak. Only to bring a structure to the language, the Prakriti Pratyay Vibhaga has been hypothesized, and that has been told right in the very first class. But if you keep that aspect aside, you can always agree that the other words, like say for example, Pachaka, which is Pacha plus Rinbul, is more meaningful at a certain level as compared to that Gauhu, which is Gama plus Do, and we say Gachatiti Gauhu, which literally doesn't make any sense. So yes, on one level, the Vyutpatti of Unadi Pratyayas is imaginary, it is hypothetical. Yena kena prakarena shabdasya siddhihi syat. This is the fundamental principle behind the Unadi Pratyayas. So unlike pacha plus ranmula, where the vyutpatti can feel real, here the vyutpatti is somewhat kalpanika. I think so. That's all the questions that I had. If now I'm going to take a small pause. If there are any questions regarding this, I can take them up right now. If not, let's start with today's material. Ratnakar Mahoday.
Namaste, Acharya. Acharya, one fundamental question. Mahabhashya is a critical analysis of Paninian Sutras. Is that so? At a particular place, he might support Panini. At a particular place, he may criticize Panini. That's how I came to know. Is that so?
So when you say at one particular place and another, the general distribution is that 99% of the cases he is supporting Panini. 1% of the cases he's criticizing Panini. So it is not like half of the time he's criticizing and so on. If you read Mahabhashya, there is a significant focus on showing Vartikakara wrong and showing Panini correct, because Vartika is basically rectifications to Panini. So
Correct.
a lot of effort has been put by Bhashyakara to restore faith in Panini. So I wouldn't really say it is a critical analysis, because it's not like he's throwing away what Panini has done. Clear?
And secondly, though not out of context, how much time it took for you to build up this website, Acharya?
Oh, this is a long time. It started around 2015. You can see, I mean, I have given the chronology somewhere on the website itself. So you can see, but we'll take it up separately. Okay?
Okay, Acharya. Thank you.
Vidya Bhagini.
Namaste, Mhodaya. मम प्रश्नः अपि बहिः कर्तुं शक्नोमि, परन्तु तत्र शिक्षा वृद्धपाठः इति वर्तते किल, तस्य अर्थः कुत्र प्राप्यते, व्याख्यानं कुत्रचित् अस्ति वा तत्र?
So I have not come across any commentary on Panini Shiksha Vruddha, that's why it's not added over here. But to be very honest, you don't need a commentary because they're so simple sutras. I mean, half of them I have already taught in the class. So O Kanthoshthu, A Kanthatalavya, and so most of them are basically taught in the class. And whatever small are not taught in the class, I think I mean, we can sit take an extra class and finish them up. It's very trivial. I don't think, maybe that is the reason why you don't see any commentary or any explanation on those. But at least I have not come across it. Okay. Astu, agree. Sudhavalli. Sudhavalli.
Mahodaya. I would like to know the dhatu filters to be explained.
Okay, so I will explain that maybe in the next class, because I also want to finish today's material. It will take like 5-7 minutes, so let's keep it for tomorrow's class. Tomorrow's class. I'll explain it in tomorrow. Okay.
Dhanyawad.
Ratnakar Mahoday.
Acharya, one question. I don't know how far this is valid. Panini has written certain chronology or whatever you call it. But why many people arrange the sutras in Akaradhikrama, alphabetical order? What is the significance of that?
The only significance is that when you did not have computers or anything, you quickly want to find a sutram. You don't know how to run through Vridhiradech and so on. So you basically say, I want to find out where the Taparastatkalasya, on which page it is taught. So you go to the Akaradhikrama, you say Taparastatkalasya, page 47, and then go to that. That's it. Nothing else.
And prior to this now that this website is available, many of the Vyakarnas, while teaching Vyakarna, they are using this website. Earlier to that, what they were doing?
Earlier to that, we were all using books mainly. That's it. There were some small Excel sheets and all that were floating around that people were using. There were also some websites, but mostly basically books.
Okay.
Vidya Bhagini.
I had a part 2 to my question. Tatra Sankhya Tatra Vivarna Vishe Asit Prashna. Kimartham Tatra Sthana Prakane Asti Iti Prashna Mama Tatra
Dvivarnani Sandhyaksharani. There's
Sandhya.
no particular reason. The only thing is he basically is listing all the varnas for the first time. Before that, he has not listed the varnas. So he's
Yes,
listing all the varnas for the first time. Therefore, he just says what are sandhyaksharas and so on, what are sanyukta varnas and so on. There is no particular reason to put. It's like conclusion of the sthana prakaranam. So etani etesham varnani sthanane maya uktani idanim iyam etesham varnanam samnya asti.
स्वयमेव स्थानम् अत्र आरभ्यते तत्र समाप्यते इत्यपि उक्तवान् अस्ति तत्र तत्र एव गर्वः आसीत्
Tadeva, it's a small thing. That's it. Yeah. Any further questions? Okay, prarabhamahe. So sutra prabhedaha. Most of you probably know this, right? Samnya cha paribhasha cha vidhir niyama eva cha. I'm not expecting you to know. I'm going to teach everything, but I could spare a lot of time today for discussion because I'm expecting less questions on this. But let's see. So Ashtadhyayam vidyamananam sutranam saulabhyena avagamanartham tesham karyam drushtva bhedaha kritaha vartante. So we as grammarians have classified sutras in 6 main groups purely by looking at the karya of the sutras. Panini never says this is a Samnya Sutra, this is a Paribhasha Sutra, this is a Vidhi Sutra, and so on. Ete bhedaha paninina kutrapina nirdishtaha vartante. And for those who absolutely have no idea what these bhedas are, all these sutras are fundamentally classified into 6 groups. Why? Purely adhyayana saulabhyartham. If I give you 100 objects and if I ask you to remember it, the natural tendency of human brain is to classify. These are 10 vegetables and these are objects in kitchen and these are objects in office and so on. So this way, kevalam karyam drushtva chatussahasram sutranam shatsu vargeshu vibhajanam krutamasti. Paninina na kriyate asmabhihi vayyakarnaihi adhyayana saulabhyartham kriyate. So what are these names? Samnya, number 1. Paribhasha, number 2. Vidhihi, number 3. Niyamaha, number 4. Atideshaha, number 5. And Adhikaraha, number 6. So Samnya cha Paribhasha cha Vidhirniyama eva cha Atideshodhikarascha Shadvidham Sutramuchyate. And this is not like hard and fast. You don't need only 6. You can create 10, 15, 20. Nobody stops you. So Pratishedha Sutram, yet another Veda. Nipatana Sutram, Vibhasha Sutram, Adesha Sutram, Agama Sutram, Lopa Sutram, Dvitva Sutram, Chandasa Sutram. The list goes on. So even though these are the 6 main, and I think there is another line to that shloka, Pratishedha Nipatana Anuvada Vibhasha Etat Chatushtayam Kshiptva Dashadha Sutram Uchyate, something like that. I might have messed up some words, but whatever. So there are different ways of classifying and nobody stops you from creating this classification because purely it is for your own understanding. And this is very important and I'm stressing this again and again because I get so many queries. Students keep on asking me, is this sutra Samnya Sutra or is this a Paribhasha Sutra or is this a Niyama Sutra? And by default, my answer to all these students is exactly this. It just doesn't matter. If you want to take its Samnya Sutra and that makes, you read the Sutrartha and you think it is a Samnya Sutra, take it as Samnya Sutra. It is all about classification for your own understanding. Kim Sutram Kasmin Bhede Antarbhavati Ayam Vishayaha Shabda Siddhyartham Vishesha Rupena Navashakaha. Why I say Vishesha Rupena? Because there are rules which will say treat a Samnya in a certain context, treat a Paribhasha in a certain context. But again, those rules are about Samnyas rather than Samnya Sutras. So I'm going to tell the difference right on the next slide. But in general, whether a Sutram is a Niyama Sutram or a Vidhi Sutram doesn't really matter. What matters is what Samnya it is telling, what Paribhasha it is telling, what Niyama it is telling, and so on. And this classification is also not like each sutra must go into one category. Kanichana sutrani ekadhikeshu bhedeshu api antarbhavanti. So there is a sutram in 3.1 tatropapadam saptami stham. It is a samnya sutra because it defines a samnya called upapada. But it also is a paribhasha sutra. I'll explain why. There is another sutram called seryapicha. It is a vidhi sutra, but at the same time it is atidesha. So this atidesha and this vidhi. So this way, you can find many more examples where sutras are classified under 2 or even 3 groups. So the first point to understand, and I'm telling this again and again, probably those of you who have studied a little bit of Vyakarana earlier have put unnecessary importance to 6 categories of the sutras. This classification does not hold much value when it comes to the study of Vyakarana Shastra. That's why I waited till 16, 15 classes even without telling this. And now that we are in a position to jump to the first sutra, the actual study of a sutra, I thought let me cover this up in one class in a running commentary. So this basically 6 classes of sutras for the sake of understanding. So let's understand. The first is the Samya. Why is there no animation? Anyway, the first is the Samya Sutras. What is a Samya? It is a technical term. Just like every field, say physics, biology, chemistry, has their own technical terms. So when you start studying biology or say chemistry, you will learn terms like valency, or you will learn terms like ionic bond, covalent bond, and so on. So just like the way the technical terms in the Vyakarana Shastra, where Panini uses these terms across the entire Ashtadhyayi with a certain meaning, are called Samya Sutras. So what is a Samya? Understand the difference. Samya is a concept. A Samya Sutram is a sutram that gives that Samya. So Namakaran Samya, giving a name to something, is called Samya. So here is an example. There is a sutram called Taraptama Paughaha, 122, Taraptama Paughaha. This sutra says that there are these two pratyayas, Tarap and Tamap, very well known, like we use them for comparison. Shuklatara, Shuklatama. So Tarap and Tamap, the two pratyayas together will be called Gha. That's the short name, or that's the Samya. So Tarap Tamap Pratyayu Gha iti Samya nirdishyate. Kimartham? So later on, when Panini wants to tell some karyas for the Tarap and Tamap, instead of saying Tarapa, Tamapa every time, he just will use a short name called Gha. So Gharupa Kalpa Chelat and so on. In this sutram, he uses the word Gha. Similarly, there is this sutra Shnanta Shata. It's not 114, what I was thinking while writing this. So Shnanta Shata, this sutra says that the Sankhyavachak words that start from Panchan, 5, up to Navadashan, so Panchan, Shash, Saptan, Ashtan, Navan, up to 19, all these Sankhya words are together called Shata. So Shata is a grammatical term, not to be confused with the number 6. So Shata is the term that is given to the Sankhyas from 5 to 19. And then Panini will use this term. So instead of referencing this entire set of some 13, 14 words again and again, Panini will just say Shadbhyo Luka. So Shat word in that particular sutram will refer to the Shat Samya. So that's basically Namakaran Samya. We also say Samya Karanam Vyavaharartham Loke. It's for the transactions. A teacher, for example, I'm going to give this analogy throughout the class. So listen to this analogy. A teacher comes in the class and teacher wants to distinct or individually call out students. So, Eshaha Devadattaha, Eshaha Yajnadattaha. So, Loke Vyavaharartham, Ekasya Manushasya Devadatta iti Samya, Aparasya cha Yajnadatta iti Samya. So, Samya Karanam Bhavati. And a sutram of Ashtadhyayi that gives the relation between the Samya and what it represents. So Samya and Sammi. So here Gha is the Samya, Tarap and Tamap are the Sammi, Shat is the Samya, Panchan and so on are the Sammi. And their mapping equal to sign, Samya is equal to Sammi, this is called a Samya Sutram. So Samya, Sammi, Sambandha Bodhakam. By the way, Sammi is the Sammin. Nakaranta word, Prathama Ekvachan is Sammi, like Shashi, Shashinau, Shashinaha. So Sammi. But in the Samasa, the Na will go away and just the Hasva will remain. So Samya, Sammi, Sambandha Bodhakam. The one that maps a Samya with a Sammi is a Samya Sutram. Whatever is in the bold on the first line, you have to remember all this. So Namakarana Samya, Samyakaranam Vyavaharartham Loke, Samya Samni Sambandha Bodhakam Samya Sutram. So व्याकरणशास्त्रे विशिष्टस्य अर्थस्य निर्देशार्थं प्रयुक्ताः शब्दाः संज्ञा शब्दाः नाम्ना ज्ञायन्ते. कुत्रचित् एकस्मिन् एव सूत्रे अनेकाः संज्ञाः दत्ताः सन्ति. So a same entity might be given 4 different samnyas. Here is an example. In the sutram tat prayojako hetuscha, there are 3 samnyas given. There is a samnya called prayojaka. There is a samnya called hetu, which is directly present in the sutra. And 2 more samnyas come as anuvritti from the previous sutras. I'm going to talk about anuvritti in the next week. But 2 more samnyas called karaka samnya and kartru samnya come from the previous sutras into this sutra. So karaka samnya, kartru samnya and hetu samnya, three samnyas are given for some entity, a specific entity in this sutra. Sometimes reverse happens, like multiple sutras together will give only 1 samnya. So here single sutra is giving 3 samnyas. In some other cases, reverse happens, like 10, 20, 30 sutras will give 1 samnya. So for example, in the entire section 1457 to 1497, so 40 odd sutras, whatever words are defined, they get the samnya called nipataha. So nipata is a samnya that's given by this entire set. So kutrachit eka samnya bahushu sutreshu militva pathita vartate. Then the same set of words get 1 samnya by 1 sutra, get another samnya by another sutra. So for example, this pra, para, apasama, which you all know very well properly as upasargas. So this pra, para and so on, they get a samnya called upasarga by the sutra 1459. And the same word get the nadi samnya, same 22 words get the nadis, gati samnya. Same 22 words get the gati samnya by the immediate next sutra. So upasargaha kriya yoge gatischa, 2 consecutive sutras give 2 different samnyas for the same set of words. In this way, multiple technical terms, multiple words are generated, are given for Ashtadhyayi, or specific concepts in Ashtadhyayi, and then the sutras that give those particular terms are called Samnya Sutras. Ashtadhyayi has a total of 88 samnyas. Not samnya sutrani, 88 different samnyas. So if you go to the website on the right hand side in the sadhanani, you have this section called Sutra Prabhedaha. This is our friend for today. There are 88 samnyas. This thing says samnya sutrani, but 88 are the samnyas, and you can see the entire mapping. So vriddhi samnya is given by this sutra, guna samnya is given by this sutra, sanyoga samnya is given by this sutra, gha samnya is given by this sutra, sankhya samnya is given by this sutra. Now look at this, sarvanama samnya is given by so many sutras, avyaya samnya is given by this, and so on. So each samnya is given over here. So different sutras give a particular samnya. Like that, there are around 88 samnyas in Ashtadhyayi. Etaha samnyaha 280 sutraihi pathitaha vartante. Etasu 66 samnyaha prathamadhyaye eva pathitaha santi. Which actually makes sense. Samnya is a technical term that you are going to use in the entire sutra patha. So there is no point in teaching them in 8th adhyaya. So teach them in the first adhyaya so that you can use them flawlessly in the remaining adhyayas. So most of them are taught in the Prathamadhyaya. Now why all of them are not taught? Why most of them? The reason, probably I don't know, but the reason is that some samnyas that are only specific to a certain section. So for example, this Amredita samnya, as you can see the 88 samnya, is only to be used for a set of 10 sutras. You cannot use this samnya beyond this 10 sutras. So then it doesn't make sense to define the samnya in the top. So then he defines the samnya at the beginning of that section of 10 sutras. Similarly, this abhyasa samnya and abhyasta samnya. Remember, we have learned both these two terms. I have taught that abhyasa and abhyasta, in fact, Amredita is also what we have seen. So abhyasa and abhyasta are used only for dhatu dvitva, not for other types of dvitvas. We have studied this. So then it doesn't make sense to give these samnyas all the way in the beginning. These samnyas will then be given only at the beginning of the dhatu dvitva section. Similarly, tadraja is a specific set of tadhita pratyayas are called tadraja. So it is given in the section of tadhita pratyayas and so on. So samnyas which are given only in the specific section are for that particular section. Samnyas that run across Ashtadhyayi are given at the beginning of Ashtadhyayi. These samnyas on the face of it are of three types: Anvartha samnyaha, Krutrima samnyaha, and Paramparagata samnyaha. Again, this is for our understanding. Whether a samnya is Anvartha or Krutrima does not make any difference in the Prakriti Pratyay combination or Shabda Sadhutva. In fact, whatever we discussed today in the class has no value, whether it's a Samnya Sutra, Paribhasha Sutra, or whatever. It's only the meaning of the sutra that matters when it comes to Prakriti Pratyay combination and so on. But still, so samnyas are of three types: Anvartha samnya, Krutrima samnya, Paramparagata samnya. Anvartha samnya is a samnya where Panini gives a meaningful word, uses a meaningful word as a samnya, which has a certain valid meaning in the language, and the same meaning is being used in the Vyakarana Shastra. So he will see a word in the language. So for example, avyayam, it is a word in the language. What would it mean? Na vyayam, the one that does not get transformed, the one that does not get changed. Na vyayam, vyayaha na bhavati yasya. So then he says, let me use this samnya for those words which will not get changed. So cha, api, saha, vina, and so on will be called avyayam. Similarly, karaka, the meaning of the word karaka is kriyate anena iti karakam. The one that helps doing an action is called karaka. So then let me use this word in exactly this meaning. Anything that aids an action will be called karaka. So then different types of aids are possible: apadana, sampradana, and so on. All these are being called karakas. Similarly, sarvanama. Sarva means everything. Nama means name. So a word that can be used as a replacement for every name. So Ramaha, Krishnaha, Govindaha, for each of them you can use a Saha. So then Saha is a Sarvanama. Sarvesham namnam sthane tasya prayogaha bhavitum arhati. So that's Sarvanama. In this way, some samnyas are taken in Vyakarana Shastra by looking at their general meaning in the language. These are called Anvartha samnya. And Bhashyakara will refer to this word. He will continuously say, this is an Anvartha samnya. Means the meaning in the language is being taken ahead. The second set of samnyas are artificially created. So Panini randomly creates some samnyas. They could have some meaning in the language, or they could be completely useless. But whether they have meaning in the language or not, that meaning has nothing to do with what he wants to represent in the Vyakarana Shastra. So sa samnya yasyaha bhashayam kopi arthaha na vartate athava yasyaha bhashayam vidyamanaha arthaha Vyakarana Shastre na prayujyate. So there is a samnya called nadi. Now nadi in the language means river. But that meaning has nothing to do with the samnya nadi used in the Vyakarana Shastra. Shat, we have seen on the previous slide. Shat means 6. But in the Vyakarana Shastra, the Shat samnya is used for all the numbers between 5 to 19. So then the meaning in the language is not the meaning used in the Vyakarana Shastra. Similarly, Vruddhi. Vruddhi means growth. But that's nothing to do with the meaning used in Vyakarana Shastra. So Nadi, Shat, Vruddhi, or even some random useless letters like Gha, Ghi, T, and so on. Again, Ghi is not Ghee English Ghi, nothing like that. Gha, Ghi, T, completely useless letters, meaningless letters, they have some meaning. We just saw Tarap, Tamapau, Ghaha. So they have some meaning in the Vyakarana Shastra. So these are the Krutrima Samyaha. And the third category is a Paramparagata Samyaha. So Panini is not the first one to write the Vyakarana. So when Panini wrote Vyakarana, some samnyas came up as the parampara from the Purvacharyas. So his teachers or the grammars which Panini studied had those samnyas, so he just imported them. So sa samnya, noche taha samnyaha, bahuvachanam, taha samnyaha, yaha पूर्वाचार्यैः प्रयुक्ताः सन्ति तेषां व्याकरणेषु प्रयुक्ताः सन्ति अतः पाणिनिना स्वस्य व्याकरणे तासां प्रयोगः क्रियते. So you see this very interesting terms like sarvanama sthana. Nothing to do with sarvanama. The words look very similar, meanings are completely different. Sarvanama sthana, sarvadhatuka, ardhadhatuka, pratipadika. So these words were taken from the Purvacharyas. So these are paramparagata samyaha. Now you can go one step ahead and say, where did Purvacharyas get this? So this answer is not given in any of the commentaries or books. Maybe they created them with some meaning, or maybe they took it from their acharyas and so on. But as far as Paniniya Vyakarana is concerned, these are paramparagata samyaha. What is more interesting over here is that in Ashtadhyayi, there are so many samyas that Panini uses without defining them. So loka pramanitaha bahuprachalitaha samyaha ashtadhyayam vyakhyam vina eva prayujyate. So typical example is the word sankhya. The word sankhya, as you can see over here, there is this samya is used by Panini all the way in the beginning. This sankhya word is given as a samya by Panini with some sutra. But along with this definition, the word Sankhya in Ashtadhyayi is also used to indicate numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is the actual Sankhya we use in the language. Now, there is no sutra in Ashtadhyayi that will give this mapping. Panini gives the term called Sankhya, but he assigns them with altogether different meaning. In addition to that meaning, the word Sankhya can be used in the meaning of 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. That is granted. So it is loka pramanita. It is a bahuprachalita word. So there is no vyakhya given in Ashtadhyayi. Similarly, the names of the vibhaktis, Prathama, Dvitiya, and so on. Panini does not bother defining these. He just uses them. Prathama, Dvitiya believes everybody knows. Prathamaha, Madhyamaha, Uttamaha. I just saw something over here. 1.4, I think. This is a little later. Why it says Uttama Samya? I need to find out. So this Prathama, Madhyama, Uttama, these are defined. Tingas Trini, Trini, Prathama, Madhyama, Uttama. So my mistake over here. So Purushanam Namani Tatra Paninina Sutra Pathe Uktani Santi. So I'll cross this out. My confusion. Kalanam Namani. So what is a Vartaman Kala? What is a Bhuta Kala? What is a Bhavishyat Kala? Everybody knows this. So he will say use Lat Lakar for Vartaman Kala. Use say Lung Lakar for Bhuta Kala. But hello, what is Vartaman Kala? You already know it, so I don't care explaining it. So Loka Pramanitaha Bahuprachalitaha cha samnyaha Ashtadhyayam Vyakhyam Vina Eva Prayujyante. So the examples I quoted was number 1, Sankhya. Number 2, this Vibhakti Nam Namani. This Purushanam Namani is wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. And Kala Nam Namani. So Vartaman, and then there are many others as well. So this is the general account of Samnya Sutras. Let me take a pause. Any questions about Samnya Sutras? You can ask right now. Otherwise, we will move to Paribhasha Sutras. Okay, no questions. So let's go to Paribhasha Sutras. What are Paribhasha Sutras? So Paribhasha Sutras are the sutras that give extra information or that give additional required information about other sutras. So for example, let's go back to our analogy of that classroom. The teacher has entered the classroom and teacher has identified the students. This is Devadatta, this is Yajnadatta, and so on by names. And then the teacher says, I am now going to ask you questions. Whenever I say write an answer, you write one line answer. Whenever I say write an explanation, you write a 5 lines of answer. And whenever I say write an essay, you write 20 lines of answer. So see what the teacher has done. The teacher is going to ask some questions and a general way of interpreting those questions has been told by the teacher. So a meta rule. So for example, when the teacher says write an answer, the student understands that I have to write in 1 line. When the teacher says write an explanation, the student understands I have to write in 5 lines and so on. So a way of interpreting the questions that will be asked in the class is given by the teacher by giving these rules. In exactly the same way, the sutras of Ashtadhyayi, how to interpret them, that information is given by the Paribhasha Sutras. So, aniyamakarini paribhasha, aniyame niyamakam. What I was thinking while preparing this, aniyame niyamakarini paribhasha. So the sutra says, aniyame, when it is not clear how to interpret a sutram. So aniyame niyamakarini. It will tell you how to interpret a sutram. Avyavasthayam vyavastha sampadakam sutram. When how to interpret a sutra is not clear. So for example, when teacher says, give me an explanation, it is not immediately clear how many lines to write. Give me an answer. It is not immediately clear how many lines to write. That information is provided by the Paribhasha Sutras. So Ashtadhyayaha anya sutranam prayogaha katham karaniyaha iti yani sutrani suchayanti tani paribhasha sutrani. So here is an example. Shashti Sthane Yoga. This sutra says that in any sutra of Ashtadhyayi, whenever you see a Shashthyanta word, treat it as a sthanam or treat it as a sthani on which an adesha comes. So remember, we have seen the words sthani and adesha. So whenever you see a Shashtyantam word, treat it as a place where an adesha will come. So this is a rule, like write an explanation in 5 lines, exactly like that. So when you remember this and go ahead in Ashtadhyayi and say, and see a sutram, astehe bhuhu, and then you see this astehe is a shashti, immediately it clicks in your brain that it means that asti, asadhatu, is the place on which the bhu adesha is going to come. So in this way, how to interpret aster bhuhu is told by Shashti Sthani Yoga. Similarly, another sutram, Alontyasya. This sutram, again in 1.1, it will tell that any sutra that gives any kind of adesha, this adesha will happen only on the last letter of the sthani, not on the entire sthani. So again, certain sutra is saying do an adesha. But where does that adesha happen? That is the aniyama, that is the avyavastha, that is the confusion. That confusion is being fixed by alontyasya, which says antima varanasya sthane bhavati. So for example, diva utta. This sutra says diva iti dhatoho ukara desha bhavati. Now the sutra itself says diva gets an ukara desha. It doesn't say the last letter gets an ukara desha. It says diva gets an ukara desha. But how is this ukara desha to be delivered? Alontyasya will say that only on the last letter that ukara desha should happen. So kevalam vakarasya sthane ukara desha bhavati. So diva becomes the u, because alontyasya is only asking us to operate on the last letter. Now, I am not teaching you Shashti Sthana Yoga or Alontyasya. We are going to learn the sutras separately. I am just telling you what a Paribhasha Sutram means. So, a Paribhasha Sutram is a sutram which will tell you how to interpret other sutras of Ashtadhyayi. And there are around 500 Paribhashas in Ashtadhyayi or in Vyakarana Shastra in general. Inside Ashtadhyayi, there are only 24 Paribhasha Sutras. But then there are many more paribhashas that are studied in the Vyakarana Shastra, and therefore Nagesha is not necessarily the first one. Even people before that, starting from Vyadi, who was Panini's maternal uncle. So starting from Vyadi till Nagesha, multiple grammarians, and even after Nagesha, I think some scholars from Hardwar or some North India have written another version of a paribhasha book. So starting from Vyadi all the way up to Nagesha and beyond, have collected additional paribhashas in various books. So books called Paribhasha Vritti, books called Paribhashendu Shekhara, or I think this latest book is called Paribhashikam. So in all these books, additional paribhashas which will tell how to interpret other sutras of Ashtadhyayi are being collected. So etaha paribhashaha bhinneshu paribhasha grantheshu nibaddhaha vartante. So if you go to, first of all, in the Sutra Prabheda, you will only see the paribhasha sutras that are present in Ashtadhyayi, very small number. And then somewhere down the line, you have this Paribhashendu Shekhara, which is the Paribhasha book written by Nagesha. So yani paribhasha rupani, whatever are the paribhashas in the Vyakarana Shastra are all being collected over here. I think 100 and something 33 paribhashas are there captured by Nagesha, but their number is like 500 or so. Different books have different types of paribhashas present in them. So that's basically bhinnaha paribhashaha paribhasha grantheshu nibaddhaha vartante. And more important to understand is that a paribhasha is to be used only when there is a niyama, only when there is a vyavastha. So when we are saying diva ityasya sthane utta adeshaha bhavati, it is not immediately clear from the sutram where that adesha will come. So that aniyama, that confusion is there. In order to address that confusion, alontyasya comes. But hypothetically, if the sutra would have itself told that diva uta ityanen, I mean diva uta, sutra itself tells that make the adesha in the first place, or make the adesha in the second place, or make the adesha for the whole word. If such an explanation or such an addition was there in the sutra itself, then there is no confusion, there is no avyavastha, there is no aniyama, so there is no need to apply any kind of paribhasha. So परिभाषाणां प्रयोगः तदा एव भवति यदा सूत्र प्रयोगस्य विषये सन्देहः वर्तते. यदि सन्देहः नास्ति इत्युक्ते अनियमः नास्ति तर्हि परिभाषा अपि न प्रयुज्यते. So for example, there is a sutram in Tadhita Prakaranam called Tasya Apatyam. Dasharathasya Apatyam Dasharathihi, Kausalyayaha Apatyam Kausalyeya, and so on. So here the word Tasya means his. So atra tasya iti shabdah tasya manushasya iti arthe asti. So there is no confusion about what this shashti is doing over here. Atah atra aniyamah nasti, sandehah nasti, atah atra shashti sthane yoga iti sutram na prayujyate. So only when a confusion is there, how to interpret the sutram, you have to go to paribhashas. Similarly, there is a sutram called Taditeshvachamadehe. This sutra specifically says, see the word adehe. This sutra specifically says that the adesha must be done on the first letter. So if it is clearly told that it is to be done on the first letter, there is no question to invoke alontyasya and force it on the last letter because there is no aniyama. So atrapi aniyamasya abhavat alontyasya iti sutram na prayujyate. So in this way, paribhasha sutras are the sutras that tell how to interpret other sutras of Ashtadhyayi. Currently in our course, we are on the second module, which is the Paniniya Pravesha, the 10 classes, class number 11 to 20. The third module of our course, class number 21 to 30, is all Samya Paribhasham. So 5 to 6 classes I will be taking on Samyas, and some 3 to 4 classes I will be taking on Paribhashas. So we will learn all important Samyas and all important Paribhashas of Ashtadhyayi spread across 10 classes in the third module called Samya Paribhasham. At that time, you will learn a lot more about these Samyas and Paribhashas. Whatever is told today is sufficient for now. If there are any questions, I can take. Otherwise, we will move on to the third category, Vidhi Sutrani. Purnima Bhagini.
Namaste, Mahodaya. A Paribhasha Sutra can be applied to different, like many sutras, or it is particular to that sutra itself?
No, I mean, Alontyasya is always going to say that whenever an Adesha is told, it will happen at the last letter. So if there are like 200 sutras in Ashtadhyayi that give Adesha, you can apply Alontyasya to all 200 sutras. So like that. Wherever there is an aniyama, you can apply the Paribhasha Sutra. Ratnakar Mahoday.
Namaste, Acharya. Acharya, 3 questions probably you might cover in the coming classes. How to find an Adhikar Sutra, first of all, while we study the Ashtadhyayi Sutras. Second question is, how to find out a particular word in a sutra goes as anuvrutti. That is second question. And third one, how to identify a vibhakti in the words of a sutra.
What is the third question? How to identify what?
A vibhakti in the words of a sutra.
Okay, so both the questions, first two questions we will take up a little bit later in the course. As far as the vibhaktis is concerned, it's basically the fundamental understanding. Like aste will be panchami or shashti because asti is the primary word. So like muni becomes munehe, astehe will be panchami or shashti. And then you refer to the commentaries. There'll be, for every sutra, for example, there'll be vibhakti given on the top. I mean, I'm not saying use the look at the website or anything, but the books are going to give this, which is just copied over here. So again, with help of commentaries.
So normal vibhakti rules apply over here. The same thing.
Yes, most of the cases the normal vibhakti rules apply.
So when I look at this, basically, every varna has its own vibhaktis. Am I right? Like
What do you mean?
Avarna has its own vibhakti, E varna has, or Ru varna has its own.
Correct. So you apply the normal tables and you get whatever you want. So for example, Ru, Pitru becomes Pituhu. So Ru will become Uhu. So then when Shashti of Ru is to be used, Uhu will be used. Like that, normal tables are used.
Okay. And another one, Shashti Sthana Yoga. Regarding this, there was some explanation as far as in Eco-Energy Sutra is concerned. That I could not understand. It was a random scanning of a sutra. So it so happened that there was some explanation as far as Shashyantyam is concerned in that particular sutra.
So we will learn about that when we go to Shashti Sthana Yoga and Eco-Energy. For now, I just want to cover types of sutras and I don't think the questions relevant.
Namaste, thank you.
Any other questions? The next is Vidhi Sutras. So Vidhi Sutras are probably the third type of sutra. So Samnya, Paribhasha and Vidhi, and the most important sutras of Ashtadhyayi. So coming back to that analogy of the class, when the teacher says the initial instructions that you write 1-line answer and 5-line answer and all that, and after that the teacher starts giving questions one after the other. So that's the core of that entire class, giving the questions. So that's the Vidhi Sutra. So Pratyaya Adesha Agama Lopa Dvitva Vidhayakam Sutram Vidhi Sutram. So actual get the work done. So it will be either apply a pratyaya or make an adesha or an agama or a lopa or a dvitva. There is no sixth thing, 5 of them. So that's the Vidhi Sutram. Or you say kartavyattvena upadesha, kartavya, this has to be done. Upadesha, the instruction is being told. So an instruction is being given, do this. Kartavyatvena upadeshaha vidhihi. Prakriyayam vidyamanaani karyani yaihi sutraihi uchchante. Pratyaya vidhanam, apply the Anugul pratyaya or the Truch pratyaya. Adesha vidhanam, get the Ukaradesha in place of Diva. Agama vidhanam, do an adagama for the lakaras. Lopa vidhanam, get rid of one dhakara when it comes after another dhakara. Dvitva vidhanam, in a certain step of lung lakara, do a dvitvam. So all these are Vidhi Sutras. Ashtadhyayi has 80% of the meat of the Sutra Patha. 80% of the sutras in Ashtadhyayi are Vidhi Sutras. The fourth category is the Niyama Sutras. Now start interesting things are starting. So the fourth category is the Niyama Sutras. A Niyama Sutra is a sutra that restricts the application of a Vidhi Sutra to a certain boundary. So let's take this example. So let's say the question answer session and so on is done, the analogy of the class, and then the teachers say all the students now can go to the library. And then the teacher says, Devadatta will go to the library only if he has done the homework. So understand this. All the students go to the library is a Vidhi Sutra. It's giving a general instruction. And then specifically for Devadatta, that particular rule is being restricted. Devadatta can go to the library only if he has done the homework. So restriction of a rule is done. It need not be Vidhi Sutra always. Any type of sutra, even a Samnya or even an Atidesha, can undergo a restriction under certain circumstances. So we say Siddhe Sati Arambhaha Niyamarthaha. It's already told. When the teacher says all students go to library, the rule is applicable to Devadatta. So it's already told, but still it is retold for some kind of restriction. So siddhe sati niyama is a restriction. So siddhe sati niyamarthaha punaha arambhaha. So niyamyate vidyadikam yena saha niyamaha. सिद्धे सति आरंभः नियमार्थः सिद्धे सति आरभ्यमाणः विधिः नियमाय कल्पते बहुत्र प्राप्तौ संकोचनम नियमः. In general, the order of going to the library was applicable to all students, but the next rule, Devadatta can only go to the library if the homework is done, now restricts the application of going to library. It's now probably not applicable to all students because it depends on whether Devadatta has done homework or not. So bahutra praptau sankochanam, a contraction of that rule happens. Sankochanam niyamaha. Yaha vishayaha purvasutrena eva siddhaha asti. So understand, you cannot just randomly pull a sutra and say it is a niyama sutra. The immediate question you have to answer is kasya krute niyamaha asti. What vidhi was told whose niyama is being told? What samnya was told whose niyama is being told? And so on. So yaha vishayaha purva sutrena iva siddha asti tasya vishishteshu sthaleshu sima nirdharanam kartum yat sutram kriyate tad niyama sutram asti. So pratyekam niyama sutram anya sutrasya sandarbhena sthapitam asti. So a couple of examples over here. There is a sutram called Sheshogya Sakhi. This sutra says that except for the word Sakhi, so you keep the word Sakhi aside, except for the word Sakhi, all the Rasva Ikaranta, Ukaranta, Pullinga and Napumsakalinga words like say Muni, Sadhu and so on, they are called Ghi. Not to be confused with Gha, which was Taraptamapau Gha, that's different. These are called Ghi. So all Ikaranta Pullinga Strilinga, Ikaranta Pullinga Napumsakalinga words are called Ghi. So that's the Samnya Sutram. It is giving a Ghi Samnya. Now if you just look at the Sutram, the obvious meaning is that keep the word Sakhi aside. For every Ikaranta and Ukaranta Pullinga and Napumsakalinga word, we will call Ghi. But for a specific Ikaranta word called Pati, this samnya is restricted. The immediate next sutra, Patis Samasa Eva, says that, well, specifically for the word Pati, only in the Samasa, like Gajapati, Bhupati, Ganapati, Adhipati, and so on, only in the Samasa you can give the Ghi samnya. The standalone Pati word will not get the Ghi samnya. Just like the way Devadatta can go to library only if homework is done. Exactly in the same way, Pati Shabda will get a Ghi samnya only in the Samasa. Similarly, there are these two sutras, Atishayane Tamabhishthanau and Dvivachana Vibhajyopapade Tarabiya Sunau. Basically, what these two sutras, you don't need to worry about the meanings. What these two sutras are saying is that 4 pratyayas are given: Tarap, Tamap, Iyasun, and Ishthan. All these 4 pratyayas are used for comparison. So, for example, you have Guru Taraha, Guru Tamaha, Gariyan, and Garishtaha. So, all 4 are used for gradation, comparison. So, ete chatvarha pratyayaha tulanayaha prakarshatva nirdeshartham. Somebody is great and somebody is greater and somebody is greatest. So, Guru, Gurutara, and Gurutama, or Guru, Gariyan, and Garishtha. So, prakarshatva nirdeshartham pathitaha santi. Now, this is a general vidhi. Then the next sutra will say, out of these, Iyasun and Ishthan can only be used for Gunavachaka words. So, Guru is a quality, being big is a quality. So, Gunavachaka Shabdanam Vishaye eva Iyasun tatha Ishthan iti pratyayu bhavata. But if you say, for example, Pachaka, Pachaka is not a guna in a technical sense like Guru or Laghu. Pachaka is a noun. The one who cooks is a Pachaka. So when you want to say this is a cook, this is a better cook, and this is even a better best cook, you cannot use Iyasun and Ishthan. You can only use Tarap and Tamap. Again, even if you don't understand the precise meaning of the sutra, that's okay. All that you have to understand over here is Iyasun and Ishthan, which were generally given for all kinds of words, have been restricted for Gudavachaka words. So this is again an example of Niyama Sutra. In this way, a Niyama Sutra restricts the application of domain of a certain sutra under certain circumstances. That's all about the Niyama Sutra. Let's move to the next one, Atidesha Sutra. Atidesha Sutra is exactly opposite of Niyama Sutra. A Niyama Sutra restricts the domain. Atidesha Sutra expands the domain. So for example, coming to an example of this classroom, teacher says that, say, I am giving a homework assignment, and those who have got less than 70% marks, for them the homework assignment is compulsory. What happens on the next day is everybody does the homework assignment, even those who have got less than 70 and even those who have got more than 70. So this homework assignment, which was actually assigned to only a small group of students who got less than 70, has expanded in the scope, and entire class has now done the homework. So Atidesha Sutram is a sutram where a scope is expanded. Looking at a different angle, we say Atidishyante ityukte tulyataya karyani vidhiyante. इत्युक्ते एकस्मिन् पदार्थे अन्य पदार्थस्य गुणधर्माः आरोप्यन्ते. The group of students who got more than 70%, for them the homework given for the other group was superimposed by themselves only, so was forcefully added. So ekasmin padarthe anya padarthasya gunadharmaah aropyante means that these gunas have expanded their location. So that is Atidesha, Anyatulyatva Vidhanam. The group that got more than 70% behaves like the group that got less than 70% by doing the homework. So Anyatulyatva, compare to the others or act same as others. So Anyatulyatva Vidhanam Atidesha. So here is an example. Loto Langvata. It's a sutram in 3.4. This sutra says that Langvata. So Langlakarasya ye gunadharmaha santi te sarve lot lakare aropyante. So the gunas are told for Langlakar. By guna, I mean the rules of the prakriya, adesha, agama, and so on. So rules of the prakriya are told on the Langlakar. But these rules expand into their scope and override even the lot lakar, so that lot lakare yatra vishishtam karyam na pathitam asti tatra lang lakara sadrisham eva karyam bhavati. And that is the reason why, if you observe, many forms of lang lakara and lot lakara are similar. In lang lakar you say pathatam, so in lang lakar you say apathatam, apathatam, apathan. In lot lakara you will say pathatam, pathatu, pathatam, pathantu. So that whole transformation of patha becoming pathatam was actually told for lang lakara, but it got spread, it oozed out, and it perforated in the region of the lot lakara. So that's the atidesha. So apathatam, similarly pathatam. Understand, apathatam is not getting converted to pathatam. Apathatam is a lang prakriya. Pathatam is a lot prakriya. All that we are saying is the rules that are responsible for generating the form apathatam. Keep a aside because it is specific to the lang lakara. But in general, the rules that are generating the component pathatam are reused for lot lakara, even when they were only told for lang lakara, because of the atidesha, loto langvata. Similarly, apathatam, pathatam, apathata, pathata, apathava, pathava. Many examples are there. Yet another example, kroshtu is an ukaranta word like sadhu, but the forms are like rukaranta word like datru. So the forms of datru are data, datarav, dataraha. In the same way, the forms of kroshtu are kroshta, kroshtarav, kroshtaraha. So the properties by which the forms like data, datarav, dataraha are formed are superimposed on the word kroshtu. So trujvat, तृच् प्रत्ययान्त धातु शब्दवदेव क्रोष्टु शब्दस्य प्रक्रिया भवति. So in this way, the overlap, or in this way, take the properties of one entity and superimpose it on another entity. That's called atidesha. Yet another example, vartamana samipye vartamana vadva. A kala which is not vartamana, but it is close to vartamana, near future, you can superimpose the forms of vartamana on that kala. So if you are saying, I'm just going in some 20 minutes, technically it is not vartamana, technically it is bhavishyat kala, but you can still say, eshaha aham gacchami. This is what I'm leaving right now, like that. So vartamana samipya, it's a close period on vartamana, you can use the vartamana kala. So वर्तमान कालस्य समीपे काले इत्युक्ते निकटे भविष्यति काले वर्तमान काल सदृशम् एव शब्द प्रयोगाः कर्तुं शक्याः. एषः अहं गच्छामि, and so on. Remember, we talked about sthanivad bhava in one of the previous classes, where an adesha comes and acts like a sthani. I gave an example. A priest was ill, so his son goes and does the puja. So that is also a type of atidesha. The qualities of the sthani are superimposed on the adesha. So that sthanivad bhava is also atidesha. So this way, understand this, it's a golden rule. Niyama Sutras and Atidesha Sutras are opposite of each other. Niyama Sutras is about the restriction of a Karya Kshetra. Atidesha Sutras is about expansion of the Karya Kshetra. So that's all about the Atidesha Sutras. Let me take Adhikara Sutras and then we can take questions if there are any. Adhikara Sutras are like topic headings, are like titles which are applicable across the set of sutras. So for example, when coming back to our analogy of the classroom, the teacher says that for all the questions that I am asking today, assume that the question is about the Shiva Sutras. So for example, if I just say, give me the first sutra, you are not supposed to give the first sutra of the Ashtadhyayi or first sutra of the Vruddha Patha or anything. Give me first sutra of the Maheshwara Sutrani or Shiva Sutrani. If I say, how many sutras are there? You answer that question in the context of Maheshwara Sutrani, which means that the word Maheshwara Sutrani or the word Shiva Sutrani must be brought down in every question that I ask. Kati Sutrani means Kati Maheshwara Sutrani. Prathamam Sutram Kim means Prathamam Maheshwara Sutram Kim. So in this way, a word that is required in all the discussion is taken down, extracted out. Like for example, you have 2x plus 2y plus 2z and you extract that 2 out and write outside the bracket. In the same way, a word that is required across all the sutras is simply extracted out and put at the beginning. That is the Adhikara Sutra. So, ekasmin prakarane vidyamaneshu sarveshu sutreshu avashyakaha shabdaha प्रकरणस्य प्रारंभे एव एकस्मिन् सूत्रे संकलिताः सन्ति. That is the adhikara. And therefore the definition says uttara prakarana vyapi adhikaraha. It spans the entire prakarana that follows. A more technical definition is swadeshe phalashunyatve sati uttarottara phalajanakatvam adhikaratvam. Swadeshe, in the actual Adhikara Sutra, that word has no value. Because when the teacher is just saying that all my questions are about Shiva Sutrani, there is no actual question that teacher is asking. So in that particular sutra where the Adhikara words are collected, they have no value. But in all the other sutras of that section, these words will make a copy of themselves and will get added. So Swadeshe Phalashunyatve sati. Phalameva nasti. Swadesha means that own sutra there is no meaning. Uttarottara phalajanakatvam adhikaratvam. So for example, Avyayi Bhava Samasasya Sarvepi Bhedaha, the entire Avyayi Bhava Samasa Prakaranam is starting from 2.1.6. Let's go to the Parayanam. So starting from 2.1.6, starting from this till about 2.1.21, this entire section is Avyayi Bhava. Now, every time Panini can say this is Avyebhava, this is Avyebhava, this is Avyebhava. Instead of that, before that prakarana starts, he just creates an adhikara sutra called Avyayi Bhava. So he says this is now an adhikara. It's not written over here, it is an adhikara. We have to understand it from the commentaries. So this is an adhikara and it is applicable across everywhere. So Avyebhavaha iti punah punah nirdeshasya apekshaya अस्य प्रकरणस्य प्रारंभे अव्ययीभाव इति एकम् अधिकारसूत्रं स्थापितमस्ति. इदं सूत्रम् अस्य अधिकारस्य सर्वेषु सूत्रेषु प्रयुज्यते. So take any random sutra, अपपरिबहिरव पंचम्या अव्ययीभावः, यस्य चायामः अव्ययीभावः. Like that, the word avyebhava will come in every sutra in that particular section. Another example is given over here. You can actually take a look at it later on. What is important to understand is sometimes only some words in a sutra are taken down as an adhikara. So there is a sutram called Vartamane letter. So basically what Panini does is he extracts that common word out, and instead of putting it as a separate sutra, he clubs it with the first sutra. So instead of keeping it at location number 0, like he has kept Avyebhava, he keeps it in the location number 1. So now the location number 1 has two things. It has the words that will be used as adhikara, and it has the words that are specific to that sutra. So that kind of sutras are also adhikara sutras. So etadrisheshu sutreshu vidyamanaha kechana shabdaha eva adhikara rupena sthapyante. So vartamane latta is a sutram where it is only the vartamana adhikara that is starting from there. So Panini could have separated Vartamane as a separate sutra. It was possible for him. And then the next sutra would be letter, then Vartamane would be just adhikara, and everything else will be the actual topic or actual sutras of that topic. But instead of doing that, he takes the word Vartamane and clubs it in the first sutra by saying Vartamane letter. So ityasvat sutra kevalam Vartamane iti shabda adhikara rupena sthapita asti. Similarly, there is a sutra 82108 Tayorvavachi Samhitayam. Only the word Samhitayam is taken down as an adhikara. Tayorvavachi is not taken down as an adhikara. So this way, in some cases, only certain words are taken down as adhikara. And as I mentioned earlier, Swadeshe Phalashunyatve Adhikara Sutra se Swasya Arthaha na vartate. Swasya Adhikara Kshetre Vidyamaneshu Anyeshu Sutreshu Sthapana Karaniya Ityevam Adhikara Shabdasya Karyam Asti. There are a total of 73 adhikaras, and the way Panini says that this is an adhikara is that he will pronounce some swara in an adhikara sutra in a swarita manner. So understand this, the sutra patha is not fully saswara, it is ekashruti. Ekashruti means single tone, not distinguished into udatta, anudatta, swarita. In general, the sutra patha is ekashruti. But whenever Panini wants to specify an adhikara sutra, he will use any one swara in a swarita manner. Now, this is not very helpful for some reasons that I will explain in the next class. But for now, just understand that adhikara sutre kashchana swaraha swaritaha uchcharyate. But today we don't have that saswara sutra patha, so you have to rely on commentaries. Which sutra is an adhikara sutra? Where does an adhikara start? What is the entire group for which that adhikara flows? All this is to be understood only from Vyakhyanas. Sometimes Panini will say that, sometimes he is a little bit lenient. So he will say, for example, 2.1.3, Prak Kadarat Samasaha. So he will say, the Samasa Adhikara starts from here and it will go till you see the word Kadar. So you can keep on scanning the sutras, and whenever you see the word Kadar, that's the place where the Samasa Adhikara will stop. So Prak Kadarat Samasaha. But that's very rare. In most of the cases, he just skips that boundary and we have to learn it from the commentaries. An important property about adhikaras is that these adhikaras can be nested. In fact, in 4th or 5th chapter in the Tadhita Prakaranam, there are some 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5 adhikaras nested inside each other. So like the Venn diagram where one circle and inside that another circle. So adhikaraha nihitaha bhavitum arhanti. So there is a pratyaya adhikara. which spans for the 3 full chapters, 3 to 4, 3, 4 and 5. That's the largest adhikara of Ashtadhyayi. So again, it is a Samnya Sutram and an Adhikara Sutram. So Pratyaya is an Adhikara that spans from the entire 311 to 54140. Inside that Pratyadhikara, there is a nested Dhatoho Adhikara. Inside that Dhatoho, there is a nested Vartamane Adhikara. Inside that Vartamane, there is a Tachila Tat Dharma Tat Sadhukarisho Adhikara. So Adhikaras can be nested also. And in some very rare cases, Adhikaras can partially overlap. So again, a Venn diagram, you have one circle and then you have a partially overlapping another circle. So one Adhikara starts. Before that Adhikara ends, the second starts. But the second is not fully nested. So then the first ends and then the second ends. So like A, B, end of A and end of B. So केचन अधिकाराः अन्यान् अधिकारान् अंशतः अतिव्याप्नुवन्ति, partial overlap. So this is an avyibhava. I was just showing this avyibhava. So this avyibhava adhikara starts from 215 and ends at 2121 anya padarthe cha samnyayam. In this section, there is this another sutram called vibhasha. This is a new adhikara that starts, and this new adhikara starts from 2111 and it goes all the way till end of 2.2. So it comes down, crosses this anya padarthe cha samnyayam and moves on and goes till end of 2.2. So vibhasha iti adhikaraha avyibhavasmin adhikare prarabhya अविभाव अधिकारस्य मर्यादाम् उल्लङ्घ्य 2238 इति यावत् प्रचलति, परन्तु एतादृशानि उदाहरणानि विरलानि सन्ति. So on the website again, if you go to the sutra prabhedaha, we have this adhikara sutras. So adhikara sutrani, all the sutras with the corresponding adhikara, where does it start and where does it end, and so on are given. These are some important adhikaras. Go through them, try to remember them, but we will learn about them as we go ahead in the course. So that's all. We have run out of time, but that's all about the 6 types of sutras, main sutras. I'm going to continue this discussion tomorrow. And in tomorrow's class, I'm going to talk about other types of sutras. So if you go back all the way to the first slide, I mentioned that these are like 6 main types: Samnya, Paribhasha, Vidhi, Niyama, Atidesha, and Adhikara. I gave you a running commentary. But other than that, we have Pratishedha Sutram, we have Nipatana Sutram, we have Vibhasha Sutram, Adesha Sutram, Agama Sutram, and so on. So let's continue this discussion tomorrow. And I want to focus on the 3 important extra Bhedas in the tomorrow's class. So this other Adesha, Agama, Lopa, you all know. If the sutra gives an Adesha, it will be called Adesha Sutra. If the sutra gives a Dvitva, it is called Dvitva Sutra, and so on. But the remaining 3, or the ones that I've listed in the beginning, Pratishedha Sutram, Nipatana Sutram, and Vibhasha Sutram, these are really important and very interesting Vedas, and these will be called Gauna Bhedaha. So the 6 ones that we called today were Mukhya Bhedaha. So that was the topic for today's class, Sutranam Mukhya Prabhedaha. And then the topic for tomorrow's class is Sutranam Gauna Prabhedaha, the secondary divisions of the sutras, where we will talk about Pratishedha Sutram, Nipatana Sutram, and Vibhasha Sutram. So that's all for today. Here is a homework, simple homework actually. Adhodattani Vakyani Sankshepena Sodaharanam Spashtikurata. So explain the meaning with one sutra example and Eka Vakyena Uttarata. Whenever I ask you to answer in one word, I think some people read it as Eka Patrena or Eka Prusthena Uttarata. Some full pages are being written. Please don't write more than one line answer. So ekavakyena ityukte ekavakyena, sankshepena ityukte 5-6 lines and so on. So don't cross that particular limit. There were a few important instructions about the homework that I wanted to give about homework, but I think we are running significantly out of time. So let me take that in the tomorrow's class. So in tomorrow's class, I'll talk about how to use dhatu filters, a little bit about homework, and then we will also complete the 3 Gauna Bhedas. Now I'm happy to take questions if people have. Otherwise, we can take the questions in tomorrow's class as well. अस्तु समापयामः. श्वः अस्मिन्नेव समये वर्गः भविष्यति. अष्टाध्यायी जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थिता वेदानामुपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनिये नमः. शब्दब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान् यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनिये नमः। येन धौता गिरः पुंसां विमलैः शब्दवारिभिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनिये नमः। धन्यवादः।